Hey guys, welcome into this segment from our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. In order to get the full podcast, go down to the description, go to Blog Talk Radio / The Onside Kick to download the full thing. Enjoy, everybody.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them East.
And we are back here on the Onside Kick on Most Valuable Podcast. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching us. It is great to see your lovely faces today. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher, thank you for giving us the listen and or download today. And Mark, we got a jam-packed show. We're talking about some, the draft we did last week because of McShay's, your 2.0.
That's right.
Is officially out. Well, your 2.1 because a lot of people got mad at you for not having Jamal Adams in there. But
things happen.
He is in there. Everything is okay. That is down below in the description. But today, we're talking about free agency a little bit. We got a draft topic at the end, but mostly free agency. We're going to look at Marshawn Lynch. Could he be coming back to the NFL to play for the Oakland Raiders? We're going to look at my Minnesota Vikings and a move that they made to get a running back in Latavius Murray, stealing him away from those Oakland Raiders. And then we're going to dive into the draft and kind of look at the Saints' 32nd overall pick and if they could be going after Drew Brees' successor and a quarterback to end the first round. But Mark, we're going to look mostly first off at Marshawn Lynch, and the big thing, the big rumblings coming out is that the Raiders, and I know their punter Marquise King is already saying, or Marquette King, he's saying, you know what, you got to come out of retirement. They're trying to woo Marshawn Lynch over to his hometown team in Oakland, but before Oakland fans get excited about beast mode maybe coming to them, there's a little bit that's got to happen. We got to set this up before I throw you with the question. First off, what needs to happen for Lynch to return? He needs to apply for reinstatement. If he is granted reinstatement by the league, basically what happens is when you're retired, your contract freezes. He would come back and right away he'd be on the Seahawks pay for 2 years and would be due $9 million in 17, $10 million in 2018. With all this being said, he can't just sign with the Raiders. It'll have to be a trade. Will Marshawn Lynch, though, be an Oakland Raider next season?
I don't think he will be. I would love to see it. I'd love to see Marshawn Lynch play in general. I mean, it's just a fantastic player to watch. But he's somewhat far removed now from playing football, and being a running back is a difficult position to jump back into. We all like to cite Adrian Peterson as the great comeback story from injury, but this wasn't even injury. Marshawn Lynch is sitting on the couch eating chips. He's
eating Skittles.
Yeah, eating Skittles. He's got those free. So it's very different in that case. I mean, I'm sure he's still working out. I'm sure he's still the freak that he always is, but it's very different coming back. Now, for the Seahawks, if he came back, I don't think the Seahawks really want him at that point. They're going to look to do something.
They would have to trade him.
Yeah, they got to look to do something with him. Who's that going to be? I don't know. Marshawn Lynch. The interesting question is, what would his what would his trade stock? Yeah, what would that be? You might think that it should be a first or second round pick because it's how impressive he is when he is on the field, the things that he can do. But like I said, it's been a while since he's been on the field. Can he even still do that? There's a lot of question marks to this, to where the Seahawks, they might not be able to ask for that much for a guy who used to be as talented as Marshawn Lynch.
Well, and for me, that's the big question is, for the Seahawks, it's not if they would trade him, it's what you would get from him. And I mean, right now, being a guy who, he's only been out of he basically retired last May was when he said, hey, you know what, I'm hanging it up. So he's really only been out one full season in the NFL. But like you said, not everyone's Adrian Peterson and can just come back after being sitting on the couch for a year. Now, are we saying Marshawn Lynch can't do that? No, we're not saying that. Marshawn Lynch is an amazing talent, but the thing is, what are you going to get? And for me right now, you're not going to get a first round pick. You might not even get second round picks. At the best, you might be able to get third and fourth round picks for Marshawn Lynch. And even the better question is, if you are Oakland, do you want to give up picks for Marshawn Lynch? Do you want to give up players for Marshawn Lynch? Or do you want to say, you know what, we are going to go out and we're going to go to free agency and try to get some guys that are basically still out there? And I mean, the one name that's got to be floating out there is really, it comes down to, do we trade for Marshawn Lynch if he even wants to come back? Because the first move is he's got to apply for reinstatement. So if he doesn't do that, if I'm the Raiders, I would think a more appealing option would be going and saying, you know what, we're just going to try and sign Adrian Peterson. We're going to go after a guy who has already been in the league. Yeah, he's coming off of an injury from this past season, but he hasn't been sitting out. He's been playing. The only thing that is kind of about Adrian Peterson is he's going to be owed a bit more money. You're going to have to pay up a little bit for him than you would necessarily have to pay for Marshawn Lynch, who already has a contract in place.
Yeah, and it's tough, too, because, yes, Adrian Peterson was injured, but even right before that injury, he was not looking like the Adrian Peterson we all came to know and love. There was definitely issues with that. And there's also the fact that I know that, he was forgiven by the Vikings for his, child abuse issue that he had coming up. But not all teams are going to be guaranteed to look past that either. Some teams will probably say, hey, you beat your son with a switch, or I don't remember if it was a stick or a belt, but you beat your son and we don't want anything to do with that. Sorry. There's definitely things like that. There's a reason why Adrian Peterson, who was once the greatest running back in the league, there's a reason why no team has really been that interested in him, to where there were multiple reports of, yep, this is where Adrian Peterson's going to go. And then that team would say, yeah, no, we haven't picked up the phone. We haven't called him. There's a reason why that happens. So, for me, it's like I look at the Oakland Raiders and I just think, they're now losing Murray, not having him on the team is a big deal. I don't know what they're going to do. Might they want to have a guy like Adrian Peterson because they just need something? Certainly possible. And not that saying Adrian Peterson is just something, but they didn't go for him before.
You got to think about this, and of course we're going to talk about him in our second segment, but the guy that they lost in Latavius Murray wasn't chump change. It wasn't like they lost a back where it's like, oh, well, he was a serviceable running back. No, Latavius Murray was a solid piece of this Raider offense, and it's one of those things where the Raiders, of course you got to do your due diligence, but it's one of those things where you got to get a guy that can come in my opinion, come in and give you the same or better than what Latavius Murray did.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where, unfortunately, in the Adrian Peterson situation, where they might be saying, hey, if you go and you pay the big bucks for a guy like Adrian Peterson and you whiff on it, he gets hurt again, or he really just he hit the cliff and he's out. That's a mistake that the Oakland Raiders can't really afford in that case, because they're a team that is young, but they are pretty much in a win now situation. They can plug in a competent running back and go right back to the playoffs, where they were potentially Super Bowl favorites until Derek Carr got hurt.
Well, and the one thing I'm going to throw out there, and I'm looking at 2 mock drafts. I'm looking at your mock draft that you sent out while you guys listen to this. Check it out. It's down below in the description. And I'm also looking at Todd McShay's latest mock draft. And the thing I'm looking for is running backs. And running backs in the first round, you only had one going.
Yep.
You had the Eagles taking Leonard Fournette. You didn't have a Dalvin Cook go. You didn't have a Christian McCaffrey go. You didn't have a Deonta Foreman go. And I'm looking at Todd McShay's, and he really only has 2 going. He has Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette. So based off of what we have here, both of you guys are saying Leonard Fournette will be off the board by 24, obviously. let's say even a Dalvin Cook. Well, it really comes down to three guys: Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and Deonta Foreman for me. Any of those three guys. Let's look at Cook and McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Let's say one of those guys is off the board. Even if one of them's off or none of them's off. Do the Raiders maybe go right now and say, hey, you know what? Instead of going out and getting a free agent, we could use our first-round pick on a running back.
They could.
Because the running backs, at first we were like, our first mock drafts, it's like throw three of them in there. It's Fournette, it's Cook, it's McCaffrey. Now, by the time we've got to number 2, the running backs, it's like, okay, we're only down to 2 here. You only have 1. Could they be looking at 24 going, hey, we could go with a running back?
Yeah, well, I would kind of, even though right now I only have 1 going, when it gets a little closer, I kind of will be more expecting probably 2 to go. Just because there are teams that need running backs, but not as many teams as you'd think that need running backs this year. So it's certainly possible. But the thing for the Oakland Raiders, too, is, they gave up quite a few points last year. They got to get some kind of help to... Khalil Mack can only do so much. They got to get some kind of help to stop teams from scoring points. And what is this draft best in? The defense. There's some amazing defensive players in this draft, and the Oakland Raiders can't ignore that because that's probably where, that's where they're going to get the most bang for their buck, because that offense, Derek Carr is phenomenal. He's a great young bright spot, and he's got some awesome weapons to throw the ball to.
Well, and that's why you had them going with Quincy Wilson, the cornerback out of Florida.
Exactly. They need some kind of help to not let teams score points on them, because the Oakland Raiders were pretty much in shootouts for a vast majority of these games that they played. There were some games, of course, where you're going to see them just blow straight by. But there's definitely a lot of battling back and forth.
Well, look at their game against the Chiefs. How many, there were some turnovers late in that game where, they turned it over, the Chiefs would turn it over, and it wasn't just a necessarily defensive battle. It was 2 offenses going at each other.
For sure. And I think if you're the Oakland Raiders, yes, you are kind of built that way. But, just ask John Madden. How do you win? You score more points than your opponent. But how is it easier to score more points than your opponent? You don't let them score so much. And the Oakland Raiders were not really that great at not letting teams score points.
Defenses win championships.
Yep, and the Oakland Raiders, they know that.
Well, and the thing that I didn't touch on that I want to go back to, and this creates the debate for the Raiders of, will Marshawn Lynch join? Probably not, because of, like we said, you'd have to trade up for him. If you look at their options in free agency compared to the draft, it comes down to, well, do we want to go defense or do we want to go running back? And the free agents right now that we have running back wise, the top prize is obviously AP. He's above all the free agents. And the only ones out there, Jamal Charles, another running back with kind of some injury history though, but he could be a guy
on paper, it makes a lot of sense.
You could have a guy, though, he could be a number 1 back. LeGarrette Blount, pardon me. I don't know. Wow, I haven't said Blount in a long time. LeGarrette Blount, who is basically, the one thing you look at is, was he only so good because he was in the Patriot system? That Patriot system is very deceptive of making guys better than they really are.
And he wants to get paid.
Look at Matt Castle. Castle, not saying Matt Castle's horrible, but he looked a lot better in that Patriot offense. He's a backup for a reason. Than he was in any other offense. Then the other running backs that are still available, you've got Christine Michael, according to NFL.com, D'Angelo Williams, who had a really good season this past year, and then that rounds it out for their kind of top 101.
Something I think that's worth noting when you're talking about, how you address the running back situation is 2 polar opposites in a way. Last year, it was the Dallas Cowboys getting Ezekiel Elliott and how well having a early pick running back worked out, and another team being the Chicago Bears with Jordan Howard and how having a mid to later round pick running back really step up and make a difference. And teams they're not going to ignore that. They're not going to look away from that. I mean, you have a physical freak like Elliott was, and you're going to probably make that comparison to like a guy like Leonard Fournette, a guy who will be the game changer on his own. But there are definitely teams that say, hey, you can get that later round running back. And that's why the debate happens on ESPN all the time of, well, you didn't put any running backs in your first round. Why didn't you put any running backs in there? Well, because you can get them later. It is easier to pull one of those guys off later than a lot of other positions. So the Oakland Raiders, they really do have a lot of options for where to go. I would expect to see them do some sort of combination of, let's draft one a little bit later, but let's also sign a guy like D'Angelo Williams or something. Some guy who we know we're going to get some good stuff out of him. He's not going to be, a game changer on his own, but our offense is good enough to where he can move and be a valuable part to it.
I got 5 guys. 5 guys that these are running backs, not necessarily where they're going to go, but I know they're not going to go in the first round that the Raiders could target. You ready for this? The first one is, and I'll throw it out there, Joe Mixon. He's a guy, didn't go to the combine. He's going to be in the draft. Oakland could take a stab on him. Say, hey, we like his talent. No matter what it is with the off the field that he has, he's fallen far enough to be able to pass him. Joe Mixon. Then you've got Deonta Foreman. I think he might be an early second round. He might not be available for them. But if he falls, they could go ahead and take him. They've got Samaje Perine out of Oklahoma, who they could take. They have Kadeem Hunt out of Toledo's a guy I really like. And then finally, Donnell Pumphrey out of San Diego State, the rushing yard record holder for all of D1 college football, I believe. Those are 5 guys that I look at where it's like, if you don't want to go free agency, or if you just want to say, let's throw a chip change contract to Christine Michael, or let's throw a chip change contract, try to get it to Jamal Charles, just something to get a veteran on the roster, and then we can go out and draft one as well. Not in the first round, but later on. I hate to say it because you guys know from the past segments that we have how I feel about this off-the-field situation. Although I believe he shouldn't have been at the combine like he wasn't, I cannot say, because of the off-the-field, you shouldn't be allowed employment into the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if Oakland said, hey, you know what? Let's take a stab at Joe Mixon. And some team's going to go after him. Some team is going to draft him later in the month of May. I'm going to ask you, if he falls enough, could Oakland be like, fuck it, let's take a stab at him?
No, I don't see why not. It seems like a lot of teams are pretty willing to allow themselves to do the effort to dig into him and see. Teams, although like you said, the NFL has every right to say you're not welcome at the combine, but teams are they want to do their own homework on this guy. They want to see what they can out of him. Will he go to Oakland? I don't know, because I don't really actually know where he's going to fall. I think he's definitely not a first rounder guy. He could go in the second round. He could drop into the third round too. I can't see him going super far into fourth. Basically he's not a day 3 guy. Yeah. He's a day 2 guy. It's just a question of, is he going to be there?
Where in day 2 is he going to go?
Yeah, there's certainly going to be some teams that will be looking for a talent. So if a guy like McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook, if they go in the first round, like some mock drafts want to have it, then he's going to go early. Oakland might not have even a chance to grab him. Of course, they might have been one of the teams to take Cook or something like that too. Who knows? But it's just one of those things where, will they take him if he's there? I don't see why they wouldn't. But he's just a huge question mark where you don't know where he's going to be. Well,
and Mark, this is where I'm going to end the segment on, is kind of bring it back to what we originally had talked about. Give me an answer of, do you think Marshawn Lynch is the guy for the Raiders to go with? Because this whole segment has kind of been, no, Marshawn Lynch won't. This is why. Do you see Marshawn Lynch being the running back for Oakland? And if not, give me an answer. If you are in Oakland, do you go free agency or draft to find your running back replacement?
What I would do, well, first of all, Marshawn Lynch, yeah, no, he's going to keep enjoying that couch. He's playing Madden right now. It's nice. He already hit his payday, so he's good to go. I think that if I'm the GM, I'm gonna go to get a veteran free agent, and then I'm gonna go into rounds maybe 3 or 4 to grab my running back, possibly 2 depending on the way things fall. But I want somebody day 2, maybe beginning of day 3, so that way I have somebody who might surprise me. But I'm gonna go a little bit running back by committee.
Yeah, right now I'm going to lean towards Marshawn Lynch not being the guy for the Raiders, only because if I don't have to trade anything for somebody, I'm not going to trade anything for anyone, especially these draft picks that are so valuable to my team. I would go through free agency and the draft. I'm dipping into both to try to find a reason because, Washington, who's on the team right now, he did do well in a backup role to Murray, but really I was in a backup role. We don't know what to expect from him as a starter or if the Raiders even see him as the future starter on this team. But I want to hear from you guys, especially Raiders fans. Let us know, Black Hole Nation, what you guys think down below in the comment section. Is Marshawn Lynch the guy? If he's not, free agency in the draft, where are you guys going to find your running back answer? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that segment from the onside kick. If you think the fun stops there, you're wrong, because click the video right over here. What are you thinking? Come on, click it. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. Bye, everybody.